Hello everyone, my name is Ritesh and today we will discuss World Inequality Report, right? So this report has come up recently and it talks about all these countries and what are the aspects of these countries, about how unequal these countries are globally, right? So this report talks about all these things. So we'll discuss the whole news. So again, this is a very current, dynamic topic, right? The report comes. What report says, you have to remember. That's it. There are no actually static portion attached to this topic, so you don't have to go a deep research into this. Only you have to do is how this report comes, who launches these kind of reports, who are the countries that top these reports, and which are the countries who are actually uh, are the bottom one, right? So these are the things that you have to remember in this topic. So it's a very short topic for you all. So let us start with the topic itself. So let us I'll give you a brief idea about this topic. Again, we'll start with why this topic was in news, current aspect of this topic. Then we'll talk about the World Inequality Lab, right? So it is a certain, again, this topic comes under the report, so I'll discuss this World Inequality Lab. Then we'll discuss the key facts in the report itself, that what are the countries, how these countries have been analyzed and all, right? Then we'll talk about the report, especially with respect to the Indian context, right? So we'll discuss the report data with respect to the Indian context, right? Then again, that's it. That's all about the whole topic. So let us start with the topic itself, that why this topic was in news. So again, according to the recently released, actually this report has been released, the report named as World Inequality Report 2022. Now it says that India is now among the most unequal countries in the world, right? This is the mirror for India. So the report says that India is now the among the most unequal countries in the world. Now the report was released by World Inequality Lab. That's why it is very important, because you can expect this question, that who released the World Inequality Report. So you have to take the correct one. See, when a comprehension comes in your exam, it will discuss all the things in detail about the World Inequality Report, what it says, what are the opinions, what are the suggestions, and all these things. But it won't mention who released these kind of things. You'll expect these kind of things in your questions, right? Because question can be from this topic, right? So the comprehension comes like, what are the these are the things. India is now the world's most unequal countries, but it won't give you a detailed idea about all these things, right? That who releases. So the question comes from this point of view, that which are the who releases the World Inequality Report, right? So again, that's why I'm mentioning this, that you can expect these kind of things in your question apart from the comprehension itself, right? So again, the report was released by World Inequality Lab, which aims to promote research on global inequality dynamics. Now, if you there are some questions also that which talks about the objectives, or what are the aims of this kind of report and all those things. So you have to just have a general understanding about the key terms, so you'll identify all these things, right? This report presents the most up-to-date synthesis of international research efforts to track global inequality. So that's why this report is very important for you, because it gives the first, it is the most up-to-date data right now, which we have about the country's situation. Right now we have seen Afghanistan crisis and all. So after that, these kind of report has been released. So this report has been the most up-to-date data in the report itself, right? So you have understood the why this was in news, right? Now let's talk about the World Inequality Lab, because the report has been released by this thing. So World Inequality Lab is actually a research laboratory, right, which focus on the study of inequality worldwide. So the basic idea of this lab is to identify countries which are very unequal in nature, right, which treat their citizens very unequally. There are so many parameters that these labs, these report analyze. So through these parameters, they judge all these countries, that how they'll identify themselves, how these countries are unequal, and on what extent these countries are unequal, right? So the World Inequality Lab actually hosts the World Inequality Database, the most extensive public database on global inequality dynamics. So again, just these are the keywords: World Inequality Database, World Inequality Lab, Research Laboratory. Because if your question comes, what is actually World Inequality Lab? So it is a research laboratory that focuses on the study of inequality worldwide. They focus on the countries which has been unequal globally, right? Now, the lab, it gathers social scientists committed to helping everyone understand the drivers of inequality worldwide through evidence-based research. Now, the lab consists of so many social scientists. Social scientists means that these people are actually very good in finding the evidence which is related to inequalities of the countries. Like these are social phenomena. Inequality is a social phenomena, right? If you're talking about a country and says that this country is very, if you're saying that India is now among the most unequal country in the world, so again you are talking about a social phenomena. India is again India is a democratic country, and there are certain rights that we have as a citizen of India, right? But still, this report says that India is one of the most unequal countries worldwide. So you can understand the whole concept that again inequality with respect to a country is a social phenomenon. So there are scientists who are known as social scientists, which gather evidences with related to all these aspects, right? Now it is the extension of the World Inequality Database. Again, this is not very important, but you have to remember what the report says and who launches, who release these reports, right? Now let's talk about the key facts with respect to the whole report. What report says. Now, just focus on the screen, focus on the slide. What it says, the report says. So the report says the poorest half of the global population, just notice this, barely owns any wealth, possessing just 2% of the total, whereas the richest 10% of the global population owns 76% of wealth, right? So just understand this whole thing, that the poorest half of the global population possess just 2% of the total, and the richest 10% of the global population are possessing 76% of all wealth. That is why even though globally there is an unequal phenomenon, when you consider India as a country, you can even know that there are so many peoples that are below the poverty line, right? And there's few people that are having so many money in their bank account. They are having black money and all. So you can identify the inequality thing in our country itself, right? Now, the report also says that the Middle East and North Africa are the most unequal regions in the world, whereas Europe has the lowest inequality levels. Now, you have to again see, this point is for the specific reason why. If question has been asked from you that which region has the most unequal countries, or which region is the lowest unequal countries, then you will identify from this answer that the Middle East and North Africa are the most unequal regions in the world, and Europe has the lowest inequality levels, right? Next, women's share of total income from work, that means labor income, was about 30% in 1990. In 1990, before the liberalization and globalization phenomenon, it was about 30%. And now, after like 31 years, it is less than 35%. So you can understand how even the increase is very, very, very less, right? The population has been increasing, but what about the contribution towards the income, right? What are the contribution? What is the share of income, right? In 1990 it was 30%, and in 2021 it is even less than 35%. So if the report says it is less than 35%, you can even conclude that it can be close to 32, 33, even 34. So it is somehow like again the same aspect. What is the basically what kind of increment happen? Nothing, right? So again, these reports are basically the mirror for a country like India and all these countries which are very unequal. Even the citizens can get to know all these things, that how our country are performing globally, right? Again, at the same time, the gap between the average income of top 10% and bottom 50% of individuals within countries have almost doubled, right? You can again identify from this that average income of top 10% and bottom 50% of individuals, the gap between them has been doubled, right? So gap has been increasing. So what it means that the inequality has also been increasing, right? All these things, these are actually the parameters set by the report itself, right? If the gap is increasing within the population, within the income of these population, so again the globally the inequality level will also increase. That is why India is now among the world's most unequal countries, right? Next is with respect to India again, India stands as a poor and very unequal country. Again, just remember this term because it can be slightly confusing for you if these questions come in your MCQ, right? So India stand out as per report. India stand out as a poor country and also a very unequal country. Not just unequal, a very unequal country. This is the key term. You have to remember this. Now, also the report says that the top 1% of the population hold more than 1/5 of the total national income in 2021 and the bottom half just 13%, right? So again, 1% of top 1% of the population hold more than 1/5. It means 20%, right? So 20% of the total national income in 2021 has been possessed by just top 1%, and the bottom half has just 13%. Bottom half of the population consists of just 13% of wealth. That's how unequal you can identify how unequal our country is. The economic reforms and liberalization adopted by India have mostly benefited the top 1%. Again, in 1991, when liberalization, globalization, privatization, these things were happening. Now these things introduced by the government because to just make India very competitive in the global, to make domestic manufacture face competition so that they can enhance their products and all, right? They can boost their employment thing also, right? So that they can afford great things of foreign based things, and they can get employment also. That's why these things happen. But these reforms only benefited the top 1%. So basically the richer one are getting benefit from these kind of things only. What the report says, I'm saying. Next is the female labor income share is equal to 18%, which is significantly lower than average in Asia. 20% excluding China, and this value is one of the lowest in the world. See, the female labor income is equal to 18%, right? Which is actually lower than average in Asia, right? So in India, 18% female labor income is equal to 18%, and 20% is of China, right? 21% excluding China. China को हटा के मतलब if you consider average in Asia, it is 21% excluding China, and India, what India has is like female labor income with respect to female labor income is just 18%, below the 21% which is an average of Asia, right? So this value is one of the lowest in the world. So these are the things that you have to remember, because you can be asked, because see, the comprehension can easily be set from this topic, World Inequality Report. You can have so many editorials and news reports with respect to this report, right? So you can expect all these things in comprehension. Then you can adapt some of the facts. You can even question yourself that if a question can be formed from this point, right? Then note down the point, note down the keyword. That's it. Then again, let's talk about this last slide. So a person in the bottom 50% of the population in India is responsible for an average 5 times fewer emissions than the average person in the bottom 50% in the European Union. See, this topic basically talks about the pollution thing, right? So, even a person in the bottom 50% of population in India is responsible on an average 5 times fewer emissions than the average person in bottom 50% in European Union, and 10 times fewer than average person in bottom 50% of US. So basically India is polluting less, right? If you are even considering the bottom persons of bottom certain kind of persons in our country with if you compare this from European Union or US, the bottom 50% of people in India is responsible for average 5 times fewer emissions, right? Again, just focus on this, that average 5 times fewer emissions, right? Then China has had the largest increase in private wealth in recent decades. So sorry, so basically the thing is China had actually the largest increase in private wealth in the recent decade. So the private wealth increase seen in India over this time is also remarkable, up from 290% in 1980 to 560% in 2020. So private wealth has been actually increasing in both the countries, China and India too, right? The report suggested levying a modest progressive wealth tax on multi-millionaires, right? So you have to also recognize this because the report suggests a progressive wealth tax on multi-millionaires because of the rising phenomenon in private wealth. That's why they are suggesting that you have to focus on progressive tax on these multi-millionaires. Now, if you again, the progressive tax comes in the report. Now, a question can be asked from you with respect to the progressive tax, that what is progressive tax and all. So let us discuss this thing also. Now, a progressive tax imposes a higher percentage rate on taxpayers who have higher incomes, right? An example is US income tax. US income tax system is an example of this progressive tax. So, in simple words, if you understand that if a person is getting a higher income, then he will have to pay a higher tax with respect to a person who is having low income, right? So if you are having a higher income, higher money, right, so you have to pay high tax than a people belong to a low income region, right? So again, it depends on the income of the people. Progressive income tax, so you can take take example of a US income tax from this. Now, there's a progressive tax and there is also a regressive tax. Now, a regressive tax imposes same rate all on taxpayers, whether their income is very high or very low, they all have to pay a same tax. That's it's called a regressive tax, regardless of ability to pay. Again, sales tax is an example of this regressive tax. Now, again, there's also one more tax, that is flat tax. A flat tax is an income tax that is the same percentage of income for all. The US Social Security payroll tax would be a flat tax, except that it is an upper cap. Now again, with respect to this topic, you have only just remember the progressive tax and regressive tax, because these are very synonym, antonym of the other. Like if progressive tax talks about if you are getting higher income, you have to pay higher tax, but regressive tax talks about that instead of having say any kind of income, be it a small or low, small or high, you have to pay the same tax, right? So again, if I sum up this whole topic, again I talk about this whole topic, that these topics don't have such static portion, just tax, because the report suggested the progressive tax thing. So you have to know what is progressive tax and regressive tax. That's it, and rest all the facts with related to this report, you have to analyze this. So thank you so much.